Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all are having a very good and relaxing month. I'm very keen to talk about a feeling I think every growing artist feel in some point of their journey, the feeling of not being able to start, the feeling of being stuck. At least I hope you feel this way sometimes because I've been feeling this way lately. Thought I should, take you along with me while I pass through these feelings and give you some reasons why you might feel this way. Also give you some solutions how you can pass through them. So there can be so many reasons why you might feel this way, but there are two main reasons why it happens. So the first reason is you suffer from perfectionism. Artists often find themselves suffering from perfectionism. It is hard to start when you are this way. And there is nothing wrong in being a perfectionistic human being. You just want the craft to be very perfectly done. You are a hardworking person, so it's nothing wrong in it. You might need to cater it a little bit better. The second and I believe biggest reason you might feel stuck is because you are afraid. The fear of failure is too intense, creating a roadblock, so you can't really pass through this feeling. Whenever I feel particularly overwhelmed and afraid of the start, I always find myself reaching for a small little sketchbook. Last year, I kept this sketchbook where I did teeny tiny sketches. So whatever, visions I had, I quickly made a sketch of it, not thinking too much about making them perfect or anything. Some of the drawings I translated, the idea shifted to a new thing, completely to a new drawing piece. But some of them went well, and some of them really shows, the sketch versus the drawing, final drawing. I can see the similarity in them, and I'm really happy about them. But now that this sketchbook is done, I am finding myself going for this one, where I drop these little tiny ideas and sketches. Sometimes they're just thumbnails to get me out of this feeling I really don't know how to start. I start there. I start from this tiny little sketchbook. I'm using this sketchbook mostly for these sketches, but sometimes I do a little bit more than that. I use this sketch to practice small studies. So today actually I had an idea of what I will be drawing. The theme is there, but I was feeling that stuck mode. Just couldn't get past through that. I used this little sketchbook to do some small little sketches. So if you feel like you're having a hard time letting go of your perfectionism, try using these small little sketchbooks where you will make ideas sketches, thumbnail sketches. These sketches are pre-planning studies that I am doing for a drawing piece that I want to work on. So here I am just trying to learn things. So here my intention not to do them perfectly. I'm not seeking for perfectionism. So they're kind of preparing me for the bigger drawing. So here I'm trying to see how I will get the flow of these braid that I'm drawing. Few studies about the movement and the flow, and also I'm trying to do some braid studies. So I'm trying to see how I will render with these mechanical pencils, just practicing. To draw a finished drawing, try to see where you can do some studies. Can you learn something from this? It also depends on what kind of an artist you are. If you are somebody who likes to use a lot of experimenting tools, experiment with your mediums, practice through this. I don't really experiment with materials that much. So for me, I was trying to study my subject. That's basically what I was doing. So I was studying some composition as well at the end. So, trying to figure out what I will like when I will draw. And this concept of studying your subject and becoming a learner, like learning from your art, rather than having a goal of making finished drawing, it came to me from Van Gogh. Last month, I studied this Van Gogh self portrait and kind of recreated it into my own style. And while I was like searching and learning about him, self portrait, and when I was scrolling to see his catalog, I noticed that Van Gogh really didn't do these very stylized drawings. Like when you see his paintings and his artworks, they're very stylized, and you can really tell that there's a color palette going on. There are an impressionistic style going on, but I noticed that he didn't really do this much. He did a lot more than that. Some of his drawings are as simple as a simple skull. He really emphasized the studies. I really liked this aspect. There are so many pieces where he's just practicing. That really clicked for me for some reason, that it really shows that how important it is to just do the work, and not everything we do or we make can be a masterpiece or can be a finished piece that will have a lot of meaning behind it, or show a technical like style or something. Sometimes practice is just enough. You go and learn by practicing and by thinking about different techniques and just learning about different aspects of drawing itself, so you can put all this knowledge into your own work. When you'll work on your finished pieces and put more thoughts into it, you can really pick up from these studies. I always thought that I'm a mature artist, that's why maybe I'm doing these things, and I always value practice, but having a proof is really, really helpful. It can feel like there's so much pressure to produce something that's worthy sometimes, and every time you sit down to create something, it really pressurizes you to work something which will have a lot of meaning behind it. But the studies remind me that some days, if you're just practicing and putting something onto the paper, that's enough too. Just playing around with the form, with the composition, with every aspect of art is like a really good thing, and it's all part of the process. This is a very good way of thinking about your art. So whenever you feel you are stuck, you cannot really make a piece, always try to start from the mindset that you want to learn today. So can I learn something from this drawing instead of making a masterpiece? I do this all the time with my Patreons actually. So I have a learner tier with my Patreons where I learn something and I immediately, tell them like, this is what I learned today. Not about just a piece all the time, but I also do a lot of studies. Speaking of learning, now I will give you few mindset shifts to learn about and implement them whenever you feel like you are afraid of the start. So when you're starting the final piece, these are some tips and things you should always remember. First thing is trusting in yourself. This might be the hardest thing to do as a growing artist. You might feel like you don't have enough practice in your belt. Always have enough confidence to make the right choices while starting the piece. If it turns out good, that is great. You learned something today and also you have a drawing to showcase. But if it doesn't turn out good, if it turns out bad, that is okay too. Have enough trust in yourself to fix it and make it a good art anyway, or just scrape and start over. But I won't recommend, to scrape your artwork. I don't really do that. I always try to work with the drawing and always try to, fix it, then throwing it or trashing it, because I don't like to trash my artwork. It is just what I do. You can trash it, but I don't think trashing is really good. So, the next mindset shift, if you want to start your drawing but you don't feel ready, can be just to be a little bit brave and try to work out of your comfort zone. So, what works for me when I'm shading a final piece, I push myself to shade a little bit more than I would have used to. And sometimes I try to use my imagination a little bit more and not relying on the reference entirely. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work out, but I really try to trust myself to use my imagination a little bit more and relying on the sketches that I have done and create something. Now sometimes, as I said, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but I think this kind of a mindset shift is really helpful and it really works for me. So that is another mindset shift that you can do if you're afraid to start the piece. I was always uncomfortable sharing this part of my art journey. The sketches are far from perfect. I used to think that they will remain always with me. The portfolio pieces and finished drawings are all that worth making, but I let go of this thought now. I shared few of my sketchbooks here and I'm thinking of keep doing it because I believe now that they shows a little bit more about the artist and what they like, what they don't like, how they're behind, like what's going on behind their mind. And you know this, right? Artist is their own worst critic. Nobody is hardly thinking your art is that bad than you do. And I truly believe it now because it makes sense. You had a vision and you had an idea, and then you translated it into a final drawing. But when the final drawing doesn't match with the vision that you had, you think that the drawing is bad. And you are the only person who knows the vision, so it really is tricky in this way. This is what I usually think about whenever I draw a piece. If the vision doesn't really truly come out and I can see it in the final drawing, it is a little bit disappointing for me. So I always used to think that it's a bad art, but now I feel like it's part of the process. A tip I always tell myself, I don't need to figure it out all at once. I can revisit an idea over and over again and perfecting it until and unless I see the vision. I can come back and redraw the same drawing again in few years time and check if my skills have improved to fit the vision yet. And repeat myself all over again. So another thing you can do if you really feel like you are in a stuck mode is to go out of your comfort zone and maybe take on an art supply that you have never tried before and intentionally play. What I like to do is switching my medium from pencil to ink. Last 2 years, I've been keeping this challenge where I will draw with ink for 1 month, and this year I am doing the same with ink and more unpredictable inks. These are all in my sketchbooks. Making or trying to make a very finished drawing with them, so everything is kind of like in a sketch phase. So if I feel like I can't start today because I'm overwhelmed or something, I generally come to sketchbooks, work with the medium which I know that I'm going to use them as an experiment. So generally, trying to break past the feeling of Like I can't work with them if I'm not best at them. So I know that I'm not best at the mediums, that I don't work generally, and it's okay because it's a sketchbook practice. Today I did not create anything very finished, to be honest. I broke past through the feeling of being stuck and started before I felt ready. I learned about braids and movements and their flow. I did few studies with pen and ink and got ready to start the next piece. By the way, I am still new on YouTube and still trying to accumulate my thoughts. But for now, these videos are getting a little bit longer than intended them to be. So I'm really sorry if you had to sit this long to get all these tips.